Hello and welcome back to the Calling Home podcast. I am your host, Whitney Goodman. Today we have a caller question episode where I'm going to be answering a question from one of our listeners. As a reminder, you can always send me a voice note or a written question to whitney@callinghome.co, and I will answer your question on the show. I pick a different question every week. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk to you about the month of October at Calling Home. Some of you may not know this, but we have a membership community for listeners of the show, and that is called the Family Cyclebreakers Club at Calling Home. And every month inside the Family Cyclebreakers Club, we focus on a new topic, and I create a full content library that allows you to really walk through an issue from A to Z, learn everything that you need to know, and actually give you some tools and skills to work on it. And this month in October, we are talking about illness, disability, and end-of-life caregiving in dysfunctional or estranged families, because we know that illness does not erase dysfunction. It really just complicates it. So if you're wondering, how am I going to take care of that family member, or who's going to help me when I don't have any family? What do I do about siblings who won't help or who are pressuring me to help? This is the month for you. The way that our membership works is that once you join, you get access to weekly content drops. So every Monday, you're going to get an article, a worksheet, a script, and a video. And then you're also going to get access to our entire content library, which includes every course that I've ever made and sold in the last 5 years. We have the Emotions 101 course. We have a course for like empaths and highly sensitive people. We have a course on supporting someone with a trauma history. Those courses I used to sell for like $300 to $500 a course, and now they are all available underneath the Family Cyclebreakers Club membership. So it's a really amazing deal if you haven't taken any of my courses before. You're also going to get access to our live support groups. We have 12 groups a month at Calling Home that are run by licensed therapists, including me and our other wonder facilitators, Samantha Dalton, who is the host of the Nuance Needed podcast. And then we also have Stephanie, who is the facilitator for our estranged family group. And that is a group where anyone who is estranged from a family member can go and talk about that process, get support, learn about estrangement, etc. I also run a monthly topic group. So this month, if you are dealing with illness, dysfunctional families, end-of-life care, I'm going to be running a special support group that will allow you to dive deeper into that content and work more on that topic. I think that our groups are really like the reason why people join Calling Home, and definitely the reason why they stick around. And I want to share some things that people have said about our groups. And they said this last month after our Family Secrets topic. So here are some things that people learned and took away from the content and the groups in September at Calling Home. I learned that family secrets don't have to be dramatic or sensational to be damaging or relevant. Thank you for helping me gain a deeper understanding and insight, not just about my family, but about myself. Joining the community has been warm and enlightening. Finally, I'm not alone, and I don't feel like a terrible person for leaving my family behind. Keeping secrets gave me the impression that I was part of a special club and that holding secrets meant you could be trusted. I learned to follow along so that I could keep the peace, even if it meant it cost me mine. People didn't judge me when I shared my family stuff, and I was afraid that would happen. I'm not the only one with family secrets, and I shouldn't feel ashamed. I am so proud to say that the Calling Home community is really a judgment-free zone, and it is a place where you will find people who really understand what you're going through or who are already on the other side of it and can help you get through it. Inside the Family Cyclebreakers Club, you'll find weekly resources, a safe community, and therapist-led groups to guide you through illness, care, and family dysfunction all month long this October at Calling Home. If you'd like to join, you can visit callinghome.co and join the Family Cyclebreakers Club today. All right, so now let's get into those 3 things that I changed in my life that helped me so much. If you're on my email list, which I hope all of you are, you can see that in the show notes. I send out emails on Monday, and that's one of the main ways that I keep in touch with all of you. You'll know that I shared some of these things with you, and I want to dive a little deeper into like what I've been doing and why I did this. But I noticed about 6 months ago that I was kind of headed down a path of anxiety that I did not like. And a lot of it had to do with how I was running my mornings. And so I decided to do some research. My Aura ring was also telling me that like my heart health was really bad and I was stressed all the time, and it didn't make sense to me, and I was like, I need to do something about this. So I think I told you all about this in a previous episode, but I did a lot of research on meditation and really how long you needed to do it, what type of meditation, how to track it. And I decided to implement this plan for myself. And I bought one of those red lights, and that I've shared on my Instagram stories before, that I'm like addicted to now, and decided I was going to implement this like as much as I possibly could. And so the first thing I started doing was meditating for like 4 to 5 minutes. Sometimes I do longer. This morning, I woke up feeling a little off, and I was like, I'm going to do 10 minutes. And that's been an interesting shift for me, is normally when I wake up feeling kind of funky, I would be like, oh, I'm not meditating today. I need to get up. Or if there was any excuse, like, I overslept my alarm by 5 minutes, or one of my kids was up before me, someone was crying, like it sounded like my husband needed help downstairs, I would find any excuse to like bulldoze past my self-care in the morning. And that's been a really hard thing for me, especially with really young children that I've had to work through. So I started using my Aura Ring app, which has a ton of meditations built into it, and this red light. And I'll link the red light in the show notes for you. It's on Amazon, and it's one of the cheaper ones. And I do this right when I wake up. So I don't even get out of bed. And it's actually a good way to like ease into waking up. My alarm goes off around 5:30, 5:45, 6. One of those times is when I set my alarm, but I try to get up within those 30 minutes every day. I keep the red light plugged in underneath my bed, pull it out, put it on top of my bed. I get the app open and I pick a meditation that I want to do that day. I need to find another meditation app if any of you have good suggestions, though, because I've kind of used like all of the Aura Ring ones and I'm getting kind of tired of it. But they're very good until you use them all like 100 times. So then I turn on the light, it's on my bed, and I just lean back in my bed and do the meditation and allow myself to like have those, 4 to 10 minutes. And inevitably, my older child, typically, he always interrupts me, and he comes in and he wants to be in my room. And I've started just saying, like, hey, I'm doing this right now. If you want to be in here with me, that's fine. And usually he'll just get in my bed and sit there. And I said this in my email newsletter. Like, I've even heard him like taking a few deep breaths with the meditation, or like he'll just kind of sit in the bed and lay down. And I think it's good for both of us. And I'm trying to like model that and still take care of myself, even if there's something. And if he can't sit still, I'll tell him, like, you need to go back to your room or go downstairs with dad, whatever it is. But I'm trying to not get derailed. And even on those mornings where there's been interruptions or there's been chaos, like it still has been helpful. And I'm proud of myself for even like attempting to do it. The second thing that I've been doing is using the brick, which I'll link to that as well in the show notes, every night before I go to bed. And it's getting like earlier and earlier that I do it. And I brick on my phone, which means I disable all these apps. It's this thing that you scan your phone on. You can also just push the brick on your phone if you don't have the device with you, and you can decide which apps for it to lock. And so I block all my social media apps. I do leave my email open because that's not really like a toxic, draining thing. Social media tends to be worse. And so that way I can still have my phone, because that's how I use my baby monitor and like it's my alarm and stuff like that. But I cannot get on social media. And this has stopped me from scrolling before bed. It stopped me from scrolling when I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep. And it stopped me from going on social media the first thing when I wake up, which then makes it even more likely that I'm going to meditate and get out of bed on time. Because when social media is part of your job, I cannot tell you how easy it is for me to open that up and be like, oh, I'm working. I'm not working. And especially if I'm starting my day reading like mean comments about me, Like no one needs to start their day like that. It's not worth it. So this has been the best. And honestly, I've been keeping it bricked from like 7:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. So once like I do the morning with my kids, like my older one is off to school, I'm not going on social media until that is over. And it's been really, really great, extremely helpful. The third thing that I've started doing is I'm only consuming news in written format. I noticed that I was going down this really bad rabbit hole of like reading a lot on especially like Twitter or voices that I did not like that were just like rage bait type of voices. And you can go listen to my episode on breaking up with the rage economy for more on that. And so to the people that have been commenting this is not me saying bury my head in the sand. I don't care what happens. Everybody else, is on their own. I'm saying that I have had to create a way to consume this particular news cycle that's happening right now in the world that allows me to be functional, to be a good mother, and to create the type of world that I want to create. And so that means that I have subscribed to 2 email newsletters that I find to be very informative, but not activating. And those are Letters from an American and Unbiased Society. Both of them are just text, no videos, no spin, no like traumatizing images. And it's just like the facts, no unnecessary commentary, no videos, no like just giving your opinion for the sake of giving your opinion. And I've almost completely stopped engaging with like news commentary on social media, and I don't watch it on television. If there's something that I read, and I should point out, these newsletters are daily. So I get the information that I need each day. And then if I want to learn more about something, I continue looking it up. And so I would definitely go listen to that episode on breaking up with the rage economy if you want more of my thoughts on that. Now, I made these 3 changes, I think about 6 months ago, something like that. And I haven't been perfect. Like, I want to point that out, that especially the weekends, like, I'm not great about meditating because I just get up with my kids and I'm doing that. I'm much better about it during the week. Sometimes I forget to brick my phone, but it has become part of my regular routine. And I've noticed that my stress is so much better. And I can see that on my Aura ring, but I can also just see that in how I feel. I'm sleeping better. I can focus more, and I'm not as like addicted to my phone. I've noticed myself really being able to like break up with that constant scrolling and consuming, and like I felt very under threat all the time because of my phone and on edge. And it was not helpful, especially because the goals that I have professionally and personally, require me to be very centered and like emotionally level in order to do a lot of this stuff. And so this has been a great way for me to balance being informed, caring, doing something about it, and also like taking care of myself and my family and my children. So if you try any of this, or even if you just want to implement one of these things in your life, like let me know. I would love to hear about it from you in the comments or in the reviews, or you can send me a DM on Instagram or an email, because I wouldn't recommend anything to you unless I really felt like it had been so tremendously helpful for me. And I think that these 3 things have made such a big difference. And it's not like I'm doing them every day perfectly at all, not even close. And it's amazing still how much that has helped. So I hope that helps you too. All right. Now we are going to get to that caller question. You can always send me your questions to whitney@callinghome.co in a voice note or in written form. And I would love to answer a question about your challenging family dynamics on the show. I'm going to play some of that question for you now.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks for the content that you share through your podcast. It has helped me tremendously through my healing journey. I grew up in a dysfunctional family environment that included a hardworking father, a stay-at-home mom, and 3 female siblings. My parents emotionally abused each other in different ways and levels. My father always extremely limited my mom financially, and expected her to stay at home to take care of him and the kids. My father, who is now deceased, was a very volatile person when managing conflicts with my mom. My mom has always been a very insecure woman and highly emotionally immature, who manages conflict through passive aggressiveness, silent treatment, and staying in bed while crying and feeling miserable. I strongly believe that both of my parents came from dysfunctional families and they just repeated what they learned while growing up. I always wonder why they lack the motivation to learn better methods to manage relationships and conflicts and protect their kids from their own traumas. My parents never tried to hide their arguments and problems from me and my siblings, although it was clear that we were expected to never share what happened at home with anyone. I think that was mostly out of embarrassment on my parents' side. Both of my parents made sure that our physical needs were met and we were never physically abused. I have always struggled talking about this because it makes me feel bad to carry trauma related to my childhood when there are other people that had it worse. It was not until my late 40s when I couldn't handle the emotional pain and physical symptoms that come with it anymore that I decided to start speaking about it. I always knew too much about my parents' marriage problems, and I felt responsible for saving my mom from her misery. She used me as her confidant and to complain about my father, which resulted in me having conflicts with my father for defending her. I feel that she did not allow me to have a normal relationship with my father, and it is hard not to resent it. I'm the oldest sibling, and my two sisters and I have never had a close relationship, and I don't think that we ever developed a siblings type of bonding. My sisters have always referred to me as a golden child, which was tough for me to accept until a few years ago. It did not make sense to me that I was the golden child because I never received privileges that my sisters were not given or felt preferential treatment. However, my sisters always complained that they were compared to me. One of my sisters struggles with eating disorders and low self-esteem, which I think is a result of the trauma that she carries from her childhood. I always felt that my mom demanded from me way more than from my sisters and expected me to be the problem solver for anything that comes up that involved her and my sisters. Her expectations towards me always felt higher than what I could accomplish, and I always felt guilty for not making her happy or doing what she wanted me to do. My mom followed the same practice when dealing with my siblings than what she did when she had problems with my dad. She confided in me whenever she struggled parenting my sisters and asked of me to get involved to fix the problems, as in her mind, I was the oldest sister and the most mature and experienced. That led me to act more as a mom with my sister than as a sibling, as I believed that in order to stop my mom from suffering, I had to scold and guide them even though I did not have the knowledge and maturity that being a parent of teenagers and young adults requires. I believe this dynamic, plus the poor foundation that we have from our parents' relationship, prevented us from developing a safe environment where we can openly share what is happening in each other's life.
I want to pause here and talk some about some of the themes that are coming up in this voicemail, and then we're going to continue listening. So, we have an oldest daughter here that seems like she was very highly emotionally parentified and involved in her parents' marriage. And we have the typical dynamic that often happens in these types of families and these types of marriages, where you have a domineering, aggressive, obviously abusive type of father, and a mother who is much more passive, crying, emotional, victimized. And we have this dynamic here of she is the victim and he is the perpetrator. And when children are trapped in this type of system, it's very confusing for them because while they do see that their father is victimizing the mother and is probably much more outwardly abusive and like engaging in hostile behavior, there can also be quite a bit of resentment towards the mother. And I think you can hear that in this voicemail of like, I was her confidant. I was always involved. She was always kind of beat down by my father. And I feel like I didn't get to have a normal relationship with anyone because of their dynamic. And so while you could feel empathy and sympathy for the mother and view it in that dynamic of like, okay, she is a victim also of the father, the children are victims of both people in this situation. And they are ultimately being robbed of a healthy and stable childhood because of how this marriage is functioning. This caller is also saying, that she felt like she couldn't say that she had problems in her family because other people had it worse, or she had a roof over her head and things were provided for her. And I just want to say this is such a common feeling, especially among people that join the Family Cyclebreakers Club at Calling Home. We hear this all the time. And I think people are fearful of coming to our groups because they think like, what if my situation isn't as bad as everybody else's? What if people judge me for thinking that this is actually bad and they've been through so much worse? And so I just want you to know that like a lot of people think that, and it's rarely actually the case. It's very common for all of you listening to this, I think, to downplay things much more than to overly exaggerate them. If anything, you're very much questioning like, am I allowed to be upset about this, when you very much are allowed to be upset about it? There's also this dynamic being brought up about being the golden child and not feeling like the golden child. And I think this is so important. I have an episode on the golden child that I recorded with Vienna Ferrone, I think in like early 2024, where we talk about this feeling like sometimes a child can appear like the golden child, but they're actually under so much pressure to perform and to meet the needs of the parent. And it can look like they're the golden child, but they're also being unfairly treated within this family system, and things actually aren't that good for them. They are being victimized in a different way. So maybe they're being parentified. They realize they have to perform for love. They need to be the parent's therapist and confidant. Like all of that can be true for that golden child. And the other ones that are being scapegoated and blamed or treated unfairly can look at that and say, look how good they have it. When in reality, everyone is being hurt by this system. All right, I'm going to play you some more of this voicemail.
There have been difficult situations such as death in the family, illness, and family affairs at different points in time where I have felt completely alone because my mom and sisters have not given me a hand to solve whatever needed to be solved. On the contrary, my mom has expected me to solve everything for them. Everything works fine until I complain about feeling alone, which results in me being judged as a bad person and full of resentment. It feels that things will only be normal if I solve the problems, act happy, and stay silent. Otherwise, I have to face the judgment and the silent treatment from my mom. She questions me constantly on why my sisters and I are not close and why we can make decisions together in harmony. For so long, I felt so guilty about not being able to have the close relationship that my mom has so harshly asked me to have with my siblings. It made me feel that somehow I caused my sisters not to like and love me. After years of therapy and learning about dysfunction in families, I no longer believe that I'm the reason for the disconnection between me and my sisters. I would love to be close to them and be able to count on each other as normal siblings, but I finally understand that it might never be part of us. It hurts tremendously as I love my mom and my sisters, but none of them want to talk about it, and when I have tried to explain to my mom what I have learned about our family dysfunction, her responses are things like, "Oh, I'm the worst mother," or "You need to turn the page," using a sarcastic tone followed by silent treatment. My last resort was to write her a letter, but she openly told me that she decided not to read it, which was extremely hurtful for me. My questions for you, Whitney, are how can I get rid of the pain that I carry and maintain a normal relationship with my mom and my sisters, knowing that we will probably never be able to really connect? Thank you.
Thank you so much for this extremely well thought out and insightful question. I think that you are spot on about the difficulties in your relationships with your sisters not being necessarily your fault or a result of how you all are interacting as adults. I'm a firm believer, and I think that the research backs up this clinical opinion that relationships between siblings need to be fostered and cultivated by parents. And parents can do a lot of damage to these types of relationships when children are treated differently in the family, when they are not encouraged to learn to work together, to get along, and to solve problems. And it sounds like all of you had to find new ways to cope and deal with the family. And some of those ways disrupted your ability to bond with one another, which is really challenging. And it makes it so hard to have those healthy family relationships. I think you said something so profound that I want to share again for anyone that might have missed it is like that you feel like I have to solve the problems, be happy, and stay silent. And I think that that is such an accurate view of what it feels like often to be the golden child in a family or the parentified one, the one that's always fixing things. It feels like people rely on you to play that role. And when you don't want to play it anymore, people get upset about that. And it's really, really challenging to like give up that role in the family and stop playing it. Now, you asked a really interesting question at the end about, like, how can I have these relationships if I know that there will never be like real connection? And I think that that's where you have to decide what are these relationships going to look like? If this is the best that my mom and my sister or my sisters can give me, if this is all they can do, it's not going to be a connected, vulnerable, like emotional type of relationship. It's going to just be this like acquaintance or distant relationship. What's that going to be like for me? Can you have a relationship with people that are brushing things under the rug? Like your mom was saying, it's time to move past it and move on. Like, can you have a relationship with someone that's doing that? And we have a lot of content inside the Family Cyclebreakers Club at Calling Home about parents who won't apologize, accepting your parent, and also adult sibling relationships. If you visit callinghome.co and just type in parent who won't apologize, adult sibling relationships, you're going to get tons of scripts, checklists, worksheets to help you kind of work through some of these questions. And those are all available to our members of the Family Cyclebreakers Club. But I think that some of you will say, you know what, I'd rather have some contact, some type of relationship, even if it's not deep or connected or includes an apology. And I'm okay with that and I'm going to do it. Versus others will say, I'm not okay with that. I can't be fake. I can't have this surface level relationship. Like, I'm just not able to have a relationship with you. And I think that there's, of course, a lot of shades of gray, in the middle here of conversations you can have, boundaries you can set. But I can tell by this caller that like you have a deep level of insight and understanding into what is going on here. And it sounds like you're looking for permission to say like, this works for me or it doesn't. And I just want to give you that it is ultimately your choice on what feels almost like good enough for you here. If you got to choose, and it's hard to make that choice, I think, when you're still tied up in that parentified golden child like role. And unfortunately, people can only meet you as far as they're willing to meet themselves, as far as they're willing to meet you. And sometimes it's really hard to have those types of relationships when all of this has happened already. Thank you so much to our caller for calling in. You can always submit a question to Whitney at callinghome.co and either send me a voice note or a written question. I will answer it on the podcast. I also host monthly Q&As for our members in the Family Cyclebreakers Club once a month at Calling Home. Those are recorded and I answer as many questions as I can get to. So absolutely join if you would like to ask me more in-depth questions and you don't want to have it on the show. Those questions are also anonymous. You can join the Family Cyclebreakers Club at www.callinghome.co. Thank you all so much for listening. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review, and I will see you for the next episode. Bye. The Calling Home podcast is not engaged in providing therapy services, mental health advice, or other medical advice or services. It is not a substitute for advice from a qualified healthcare provider and does not create any therapist-patient or other treatment relationship between you and Calling Home or Whitney Goodman. For more information on this, please see Calling Home's terms of service linked in the show notes below.